Welcome to the Vertical MRO Podcast, where we dive into the world of helicopter maintenance, repair, and overhaul. In each episode, we talk with the technicians, engineers, and experts who keep helicopters flying. Because at the end of the day, no maintenance, no mission. But when you think of going back over the course of your career, is there one tool that you absolutely could not do without in your toolbox?
I would say the newest thing that I wish I would have had 20 years ago are those Nipex flat jaw pliers. Absolutely fantastic. They sell them like you buy a set for $150, 3 different sizes, 8, 10, and 12 inch. It kind of replaces the old Ford wrench, and it does a much better job than the Ford wrench ever did.
There's so many different responses. A lot of times it's the one I think I get the most is flashlights. People, it tends to be their favorite tool, but I love the pliers. Welcome to the Vertical MRO Podcast, brought to you by Vertical HeliCASTS in partnership with Vertical Magazine. In this 2-part series of the Vertical MRO Podcast, Ronnie Reese and I have a discussion with the Thrust Institute of Maintenance Director, John Dellenberg. During this conversation, we dive into the critical challenges and exciting opportunities in recruiting and shaping the next generation of talent in the aviation industry. John talks about Thrust Institute's innovative training approaches. We discuss leveraging social media and partnerships with high school STEM programs like Rising Aviation High School to engage youth and promote aviation careers. We explore the evolving landscape of technical training, the importance of adaptability with new technologies like AI, and the need for smarter aircraft design focused on maintainability to ensure a sustainable future. Join us as we discuss the future of aircraft maintenance, how to attract new talent, and how industry-wide shifts can shape the next era of rotorcraft aviation. Welcome to part 2 of our conversation. If you missed part 1, you can find it in our previous episode.
Thank you to this episode's sponsors, Safe Structure Designs, Robinson Helicopter Company, and Essential Turbines.
Right. That's cool.
ChatGPT can absolutely supplement something your instructor is telling you.
Yeah.
Like, hey, explain this to me in a different way. You can ask it a question and then go, hey, explain that to me differently.
Yeah.
It'll give it in a different context, right? So I personally never believe that they're going to replace people. They make us more efficient. They make us better at our jobs. They make us be able to do things in a faster manner.
Yeah. And I was, actually just listening to one of the most recent Vertical MRO podcasts where the Bell guys were talking about the latest advances in technical publications, right? From videos that pop out and how, you're breaking apart parts, you're adding them to your cart automatically and various other things. Just all these efficiencies are going on, and how much further we can go as the latest advancements come with the new certifications or updates to legacy stuff, including through augmented reality, right? Just how much easier and faster it's going to be for technicians in the future to get things done because of there's not enough people. How do we make them even more efficient?
Yeah, so like Bell's new products with that, what they're calling it, I think they're still calling it the IEDM.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like integrated technical electronic manuals. So when you're going to look up, hey, this is the the inspection procedure that I'm going to do. I'm going to take the main rotor hub off. This is my list of consumables. You can just add that list of consumables to your cart, right? You're writing the procedure. Oh, look, this rod end is broken. I had to disconnect it. Here's the part number. Add to cart. Check out. Right. Whereas before, okay, I was in the maintenance manual. Now I got to go over to the IPC, find that that part number, and then I got to go to another system and order it. It's just we're always kind of evolving those things that are really, kind of, cleaning all that stuff up. And that's another thing with AI and with getting into a job like being an aircraft mechanic. Like, there are not going to be a lot of data entry people. There's not going to be a lot of entry level finance people. Like, a lot of that stuff is going to be rolled and taken care of by AI. And really, the people that are going to be like, I think I heard Mark Cuban was talking about this the other day, and I don't know if you guys know who he is, but he's pretty popular here in Dallas.
A little bit.
He was talking about how, entry level engineers and all those kind of roles are going to get taken away by AI. What's not going to be taken away is, trades and creative, right? So like, AI is never going to take over a creative department. Like, it doesn't have the capability. We'd love to make pictures in it. It's hilarious. Yeah. My daughter does it, it's fun, but it's never going to take over for a true creative person, and it's never going to take over a skilled trade. But a lot of those kind of entry level finance jobs and the data entry and, hey, design this road to go from here to there. Well, AI can look at the satellite view and go, okay, here's what it looks like. This is what the road pitch needs to be. Then you have a senior level engineer that comes in and kind of inspects all of that stuff.
What's cool and what I love about what you guys are doing is you're not sitting back and be like, this is the way that maintenance has always been done, so we're going to teach our students that way. You guys are looking outside the box. The adaptive learning thing is awesome. I haven't heard of any schools doing something like that. I think of the university programs, and it would be against their business model to pursue something like that. But imagine if they did, and you could, as a freshman, all of a sudden hyperspeed through your college education to where you're finishing in a much quicker amount of time. You guys are doing that. You're looking at AI, looking and trying to figure out how are these going to impact our industry. And then, I can only imagine how that filters through the classroom and kind of empowering your students to be like, hey, what do you think? You're a little younger. How would you use this? I think that's really exciting.
And there were some other interesting things I saw at that high school. Apparently there's a national Minecraft competition, and it's about actually how to design an airport. Right. So where you lay out hangars, how big the hangars are, where the runways are, and so forth.
Where the FBO is, where the passenger terminal. Yeah. So they have a nationwide contest on Minecraft, and kids like to play Minecraft. One of my students built a replica of our school in Minecraft, and I'm like, that seems really dumb to me and a waste of time. But should have been studying for your written. But what do I know? Like, at least she's engaged and happy, and and there.
Well, it's interesting. We talked about the way kids learn. We, as parents, we talk to our kids and be like, hey, why do you spend so much time on games? And then I start thinking through how that will translate into their life. And I think there is a direct correlation into their productivity as adults, because those digital worlds that they're participating in are going to be the worlds that they operate in as adults. And we're seeing it today. AI is kind of an example of that. I think we're at the very beginning of this revolution with technology as it relates to AI, and coming up with solutions and ways that that's going to change not just the helicopter industry, but the aviation industry as a whole is really exciting. Like we've been talking about, you brought up something a second ago that I want to touch back on, and I think maybe Ronnie brought it up on the 525. That's something that to me is really exciting to talk through. Did you get a chance to work on that?
Yeah, so I worked on that program for about 2 years or a little more. It was kind of on and off. So I was like from the training academy side of things. So we were, really cool technology, super different. I was the only person in the department that had experience on anything remotely that big. When you get next to the thing, so I finally was next to one. I don't know, but it wasn't a mock-up a couple years ago. And long after I'd left the program, it was all just ideas and thoughts and theories. And I think we were calling it the Magellan is what we were calling it at the time. So we were on this Magellan program. We all signed NDAs and we would never talk about this, whatever. And then they announced it at HAI here in Dallas. What year was that? 2013, 12, 13, something like that. And it was just so neat. And the technology was so far advanced, and the fly-by-wire stuff and all of those different things. And unfortunately, from my seat, I got promoted into a supervisory role, and I had to give that off to somebody else. But that was a really neat kind of concept. And it really shows you, if you're used to being around, a 20,000 pound aircraft, you get next to the 525, it is much larger than what you think of as a 20,000 pound aircraft because of the composite technologies. Same with when you stand next to a 429, you think this is a 7,000 pound aircraft. This thing is gigantic, right? So just those technologies and advancements and the way that they're manufacturing things and a lot of the things that they did with kind of the design of the 525, they had kind of started on more, okay, we're going to build all these stringers and skins, but we're just going to make them out of composites. Well, for them to be strong enough to make it out of composites is going to weigh more, right? You have to rethink the whole way that you're going about that. And I think that that's what we all have to do in whatever aspect. Like, hey, we need to lean forward into the technology, figure it out. Like the guys that are going to get left behind are the ones that are like, oh, well, I've been doing it like this for 30 years. It must be the right way. I would tell you that our program, that what we're delivering to our students today, tomorrow will be better. And the next day will be better. And that's always going to be, that's our mission statement. Everything that we do needs to be the best that we can do it. And we need to innovate and figure out ways to, provide this product of whatever it is in a more efficient and while keeping that same level of high quality that we're going for.
And what you bring up reminds me of one of my favorite sayings about baseball. It's yesterday's hits won't win today's games.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think what you're describing is amazing. Again, going back to 525, sorry to keep touching on that, but for folks, for the maintainers who haven't gotten their hands on it yet, is there anything to your knowledge that's interesting that'll be different from a maintainer's perspective as it pertains to the 525? Safe Structure Designs offers creative, customizable ergonomic safety solutions with over 20 years of experience. Their custom design process is free, ensuring safety and efficiency. Let them create your ideal solution. Visit www.safe-2.com. That's www.safe-2.com for more information.
I really couldn't speak intelligently on it. Like if you have experience on large helicopters, there's a lot of things that are there. Kind of the fly-by-wire system is very, very interesting. So you don't have those flight controls that we're typically spending hours and hours rigging. All of that stuff is done behind a computer screen. Like, hey, this is the position of the joystick or the side stick or whatever they call it in the thing. You're going to program something and it's got that it's a G5000 suite of avionics. It's beautiful, fantastic looking. The massive, servo actuators that are up on the main rotor are really neat. You have triple redundancy, a lot of great stuff. Those GE 700 series engines are, absolutely probably the
bulletproof.
It's bulletproof, the best. I was in a Blackhawk that we got one of them got shot through and it still ran.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that
that's a fantastic engine. Bell did a great job.
What Bell did with the 525, but also 505, and the other OEMs are really doing a great job on the new development, is designing for the maintainer in mind to begin with.
Yeah, so I guess I could speak to that a little bit. I remember when the 525 and the 505 were first kind of getting announced. One of the things they did is they hired these guys that were AMPs that had been maintaining aircraft, and they put somebody in each one of the engineering IPTs, right? So like rotors and drives had a mechanic that they had to approve all their designs through. And so they were doing all this really cool at the time. So forward looking, like, okay, we're going to have this inboard retention nut that has this torque check that to be done, right? Well, hey, we have the technology. We're going to print all that stuff in 3D. We're going to go out there and here's this group of engineers that designed it. Okay, how easy is it to do that? Well, I guess if we moved it out to here, it wouldn't really affect the design, but it would make maintaining that so much faster. Right. And so, and that is an investment that I think Bell was probably the first manufacturer to really kind of lean into and do that with their newer products. And I think a lot of that lends kind of to the, just the maintainability of the Bell product line, right? Like it is the most reliable.
Yeah, and again,
not to talk bad about other ones. They paid my mortgage for a long time. So I really enjoyed it, but
I have to say, like the other OEMs, like I said, are doing good investments into their Airbus. So obviously have announced the new H140. They brought a lot of new products to the market now with the 175 and H160. The R88, we'll have a standard health and use monitoring system in from day one. Like there are different ways that these aircraft OEMs are thinking about the maintainer in mind, because ultimately the direct operating costs that the operators are paying lends itself to the sustainability of, can we operate as a business successfully, financially positive? Can we afford as a city council to have this vertical aviation asset to support my citizens? It's all coming down to, how do we make this easier as we have less people to fly and maintain them?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's all part of it. That's kind of funny you bring that up. I had a friend of mine that was the sales guy for Bell, and Fort Worth PD was talking about buying a new 407. And he's like, as a salesperson, I think that's a great idea. As a taxpayer in Tarrant County, why do they need a 407? Like what? the city's 30 miles wide. Like, what are you talking about? It's a 20-minute flight. It might be a 19-minute flight in a 407. Like, why would we spend the money?
Right.
And so I think cities really have the responsibility of looking at those sort of things.
And they ended up being one of the first agencies that I know that did adopt the 505.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And from a cost perspective, it's a fantastic aircraft, and tooling and all of those things, right? If you've been operating long rangers, switching to a 505 is a great idea.
Yeah. Did you guys get to know each other working at Bell?
Ronnie, I think I don't remember what job I had. I had this grandiose idea of like opening a training academy, Bell Training Academy specific Facebook page, and like advertising to try to fill my classes to a certain, because I was running a P&L and being held to a standard. So I'm like, hey, I need some help from marketing. We're a $20 million business and there's no marketing person here, not a single salesperson. So that's kind of how we met, and we created some initiatives, and I got in a little trouble because I had created my own Facebook account. Like Bell Training Academy Facebook page.
Bell Training Academy, John's version.
Yeah. And we were just kind of,
So maybe that's a good segue. So OEMs obviously have to have their own training, right? To get people certified and so forth. What are the differences that maintainers and operators should be thinking about based off of going back to the OEM versus third-party maintenance training?
I think that, like we said, one of the biggest drivers is going to be kind of a quality piece there. One of the largest assets of being a technical instructor or the training academies at any of the OEMs is they have ready access to the engineering departments, right? Mm-hmm. Now, do I think that exactly translates to a type course on a Bell 205? Probably not. I would not.
The guy teaching a third party probably knows more about that aircraft than the guy who just graduated.
And that's what I would say. If I'm trying to get carded to go work on fire contract, I'm going to most likely I'm paying for that myself. Do I want to pay $15,000 to go do it at Bell, or do I want to pay $5,000 and do it somewhere else? And is the quality going to be that much different? And I do not think that the quality is worth the cost difference. Now, if you're talking about a 505, right? Do I want to go get, my initial course from Bell on the 505? Absolutely. Now, from the flight training perspective, it's really going to be a lot of what does my insurance company have to say, right? But when we talk about from that technical training aspect, I think that there's a lot to be lended to that. Like the newer aircraft with the new technology that haven't been out in the field that long, the people at Bell have all of that immense amount of data to kind of grasp onto. Something like a 212 or a 205 or, even the 206 line at this point, right? Or 407s, that airframe has 1 million flight hours on it, right? There are plenty of people offering training that in my opinion, sometimes is better. Like if you have a better instructor, I don't care how great your computer program is, if your instructor is not good, you're never going to get to that same quality level. And kind of my mentality, my entire career has always been, hire the best people you can, pay them well, and take care of them, and they'll take care of you. And you have good quality instructors, and the training academy has lots of good quality instructors. Lots of great pilots work out there, but that is all just part of it. You gotta look for that, and that's probably the hardest part about running my business is hiring instructors. We talk about a shortage of aircraft mechanics. Well, not every aircraft mechanic is a good, A&P school instructor. And so we run through that kind of myriad of things, and then it's cost and it's all these things. And it's always a challenge. It's a challenge every day. It's my biggest challenge. It's harder than finding students. It's harder than doing TikTok dances. It's harder than any of it. Right.
Well, yeah, we talk about that in the law enforcement world quite a bit, because there's a lot of people that have the technical skills to be able to teach, to stand in front of a group and say, this is my experience, which qualifies me to stand in front of you and talk about these things. But they lack the soft skills that we talked about earlier of, the persuasiveness, the charisma that's required to stand up in front of a group and engage the folks that are learning from you. It's much, much different. And I can see what you're saying. It's really hard for a lot of people to overcome really just the fear of standing in front of somebody and speaking. That's a huge obstacle. We've tried to encourage as many people as we can to pay it forward. You had the benefit of sitting in a seat and listening to an awesome instructor at some point. Think about yourself now taking that next step and doing the same thing for the industry. I hope that as we go, people pay attention to that and start, kind of putting the efforts in to do what we're talking about. I think it's important. When you look back over the course of your career, kind of in the rearview mirror, it's interesting because you've parlayed, you went to the military, you became a trainer in the military, you parlayed that into your position at Bell, and then now you parlayed that into your position now at Thrust and what you're doing there. You never, I think in the moment, realize how what you're doing now is going to pay for the next thing. But looking back, do you ever look back and like, man, I never envisioned being in the position I'm in now?
Yeah, so that's funny. I was just talking to somebody about this exact thing that I had seen maybe 10 years ago. It's I don't know if you see it, Steve Jobs' commencement speech at Stanford. You ever seen that or heard about it? How you can't connect the dots going forward. And, you're right. Like my career, one step at a time kind of led to where I am today. And who knows what I'm doing today, what it's going to lead to tomorrow. But just, I always put my whole self into everything that I did every day. And, I'm very fulfilled. I have what I consider the best job in the whole world. I work in as part of the best organization that I could be. And I think that I have I have lots of kind of anonymity to make it that way. And so, that's just where we are. But it's interesting, you can't really think about going forward. Okay, I'm doing this because I want my next step to be this. You really just think about, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be the best at it that I can be. Right.
Absolutely.
And the dots will align themselves. I always told my kids that too when they're going their first job. Well, I don't want to wash dishes. It's dumb. It's an easy job. You should be the best damn dishwasher on the face of the planet, right? Yeah. Like, the easier you think a job is, the better you should be at it. And it doesn't mean that you should like slough it off and not work hard. Like, put your best foot forward every day.
So one of the things, that most people probably are introducing you the first time, not only you have the maintenance side and the A&P, but you're also a pilot too. How'd that come about?
Well, I'm finishing my flight training. That started here. Our CEO, Patrick Arnzen, is a designated pilot examiner and has lots of airplanes. And, we kind of started flying together first 20 something hours of my flight training were in a Game Bird. So if you guys haven't seen a GB1 Game Bird fully aerobatic airplane, that was what I got kind of my first time, flying and landing and, rolling, looping, hammerheads, all the fun stuff.
That's cool.
So it was really cool. And we're kind of finishing up in a normal aircraft. But just lots of fun. I have time in all sorts of different small airplanes. It's really great. I don't think it would ever be anything I would do professionally. It's not really my bag. It's a ton of fun. I love doing it. And no offense to you, John, but a lot of times those guys are just kind of bus drivers, right?
Yeah, that's true.
But outside of like stuff like you did was really cool. There's no way I could be an airline pilot. Absolutely not. I have a very good friend of mine that's transitioning out of the military right now. He's just retired. He spent the last 20 years in the 160th flying whatever the Chinook is.
Yeah, 747s.
Yeah, MH47s, all sorts of cool stuff, cool, fast, high-speed, low-drag stuff all over the world. And now he's going to go work in an airline. I'm like, dude, like, I don't know how you're going to do that. But, it's about money. And everybody from, his organization that's retiring, 90% of them are not going and taking helicopter jobs. They're going and taking airline jobs just because the money is there. It's so much different.
Yeah, it's crazy going back to what we're talking about. With the students you have now, I think if there's one takeaway from this conversation, it's what we just described. Do what you're doing now the best of your ability, because you don't know what's going to follow. And you don't know how the efforts that you're putting forward today are going to help you get to that thing you want tomorrow. So cool that you have the ability to impact students in the way you have.
Thank you to our sponsor, Robinson Helicopter Company, the choice for unrivaled safety and reliability, so you can accomplish any mission with confidence. For more than half a century, Robinson has been at the forefront of the helicopter industry. From the R-22 to the R-66 turbine, Robinson makes helicopters accessible so more people can accomplish more missions. Climb higher. For additional information, visit www.robinsonheli.com.
Oh, it's so fantastic. Like, I look at these graduates and it just like, it's the most fulfilling thing I've ever done. And, I've done lots of training and lots of stuff and lots of fun stuff all over the world. And like, it is fantastic. I have, half a dozen students still call me, like, hey, I had a great day at work today. I wanted to tell you about it. Or, call me on, holidays, like, hey, just wanted to wish you a happy Easter, wish you a Merry Christmas or whatever. And one of the kids from my very first class, I'll call him, he's actually been on my podcast, Carson Yao. I told him all, day one, like, hey, you're going to need a letter of recommendation for me to go to work somewhere. And like, he had graduated, got his license. He's like, hey, I have these offers, but I really want to work in the helicopter space. I was like, okay, well, I'll write you a letter of recommendation. Like we talked about, you did a good job. And I called up a guy that I know, Nick Suter. He's the director of maintenance down at Air Center. I was like, hey, this is a great kid. He's like, well, I don't know if I have an opening. I was like, you should create an opening. And so like just kind of that network, I was able to call somebody, and this kid now he's out working on 225s, having a great time, blast, text me pictures, almost once a week or whatever. Hey, I had to, pull the fuel cells out of this, or I had to, we were taking the rotor blades off today. It was so neat, and so like there are those kids that love it and want to get into it. It's just, you got to find the opportunity and they have to know about it.
Yeah.
He didn't even know that there was such a thing as an aircraft mechanic before, like he had saw my ad where I was advertising to diesel mechanics. Right. So it's just, that's it. Right. Like we have to figure that piece out.
So the sponsored pitch here from Vertical, right? So at the upcoming Vertical MRO conferences, both in Kelowna and Irving, I think students are able to attend that, no additional cost, I think, John?
Right. Yep. Free to get in for students. Yeah. And for Irving, it's going to be November 10th through 12th at the Urban Convention Center. So yeah, it's,
so what do the students need to get in?
I think they just have to have proof of enrollment. So get in touch with us.
So could I just send Leslie an email with
a
list
get in
of
touch with us and we'll walk you through that.
I mentioned this to the high school principal, and she was very excited. I mean, like the opportunities for these field trips that you're talking about, right? That Verticon was just here in Dallas. Some of those students got to come out there and experience that. Nothing more than actually seeing the skills competitions, the educational, the panels, and I know one of the things that that's going to be pitched heavily at the conference is operators having a little button saying like we're hiring, right? So creating that entry pathway to the people who want to go turn.
Well, and the other thing, the other thing I would say, I would tell the operators is you need to start hiring new mechanics and hire an extra one and run them like an apprentice. Have them shadow the guys that are more experienced, closer to retirement, the guys you're worried about losing. Hire apprentices to work for them. And I know it's expensive, but it's an investment in your future, right? Like you can't do nothing about a problem and then just complain about it, right? Like we got to find the solution. And we'll love to be there. I need to learn more about the skills competition because I'd like to put together a team of students and bring them out and compete.
Yeah.
That would be super fun.
Yeah, those opportunities are great. As again, going back to if you don't see it, you don't know that it exists, right? And so even if a student's not in a position to apply for a job, just being able to talk to potential employers and be like, hey, what do you need and what's available? Just that knowledge by itself, I think, is gold. As going back to the conversation of college versus the trades, you can graduate from this program and be making, like you said, $70,000 easy by next Christmas.
By the time you're 18, 19 years old.
Yeah.
Wild.
I mean, a lot of people go to college for 4 years, and if they make that, they're very lucky, right? I mean, it lends itself to something that, especially if you're passionate about and, you like getting your hands dirty every day and it's something that you love, you never work another day in your life, right?
Yeah. And I mean, even working on aircraft, you don't get that dirty, A lot of it is inspections, and you shouldn't look like you were just, we talk a lot about that, about cleanliness, Like you're gonna get a little dirty, but your face shouldn't be covered in black soot, and it's not like you're working on a semi that's been running down the road.
So does a Snap-on truck come here like the ice cream truck? I mean, like how do students acquire all their tools while they're here?
So I kicked the Snap-on truck out. They told them not to come anymore because the kids don't need to be spending money on that sort of thing. We were doing where we included tools, and as part of tuition, we just kind of ran out of space for keeping stuff. We have a partnership or a discount code through a company called Tecton. And if you haven't seen them, they put out a fantastic kind of basic aircraft mechanics set. It comes all shadowed in a little stacked organizer box, so you can kind of set it up however you want on a roll cart. I have several of them over in the hangar that we use. I think they're $2,200 is the list price, and it comes with absolutely everything that you need.
It gives you a 10 millimeter socket to snap on, right?
90% of it is made in the U.S. Their warranty, I would say, from personal experience, is fantastic. If I had something broke, I take a picture of it, I send it to an email. My last thing that I did was on a Saturday, I sent them an email. Sunday, I got a response. Monday morning, I had a shipping label. It was there Tuesday.
Oh, nice.
So you think about just customer service from something like that. You worry, there's no truck that I can get my wrench replaced if I need it. Well, you're going to wait a week because the truck's not going to come unless it just happens to break the day he's there. And then he probably doesn't have what you need on the truck. He's going to have to send it off. So it's going to be 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It kind of is just one of those things, right? Like Tecton is leaning forward and embracing technology and manufacturing processes and doing stuff online. And Snap-on is, hey, you pay me $100 a week for the rest of your life.
The amount of money that's spent on tools alone is mind blowing. I'd imagine far more money is spent on that versus an education over the course of a career, which is wild to think. When you think of, again, going back over the course of your career, is there one tool that you absolutely could not do without in your toolbox? And not the 10 millimeter like Ronnie brought up.
Yeah, I don't work on European stuff, so 10 millimeter. I would say the newest thing that I wish I would have had 20 years ago are those Nipex flat jaw pliers. I don't know if you're familiar. They're absolutely fantastic. They sell them like you can buy a set on Amazon for $150, 3 different sizes, 8, 10, and 12 inch. And, it kind of replaces the old Ford wrench. And it does a much better job than the Ford wrench ever did.
Very cool. I love that question. There's so many different responses. A lot of times it's the one I think I get the most is flashlights. People, it tends to be their favorite tool, but I love the pliers.
Yeah, I carry a flashlight in my pocket all the time. I don't even think of it as a tool.
Yeah.
It's just
picture appendage.
Well, at my age, I need it at restaurants to read the menu. My wife's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm just Streamlight to read the menu here at this dark restaurant you took me to."
Well, you've kind of talked about it a couple times. You talked about how many folks have graduated from your program. How many classes have officially graduated, and what are you seeing from those early students that have already graduated?
So it's 99% of our graduates are fully licensed. So I don't take my hands off of. I don't stop contacting them until they have completed their oral and practicals. It's just kind of by design of our program. We want to make sure we're not just trying to graduate people through the curriculum. We want people to take their writtens. We want people to take their oral and practical. And so kind of pushing through that. They're all employed, different industries. We have one work a few working at a flight school. I think there's 3 of them that work for Thrust Flight in our flight department. Bombardier, like I said, Carson's working down at Uniflight. But we've been really successful with that. I haven't had anybody go to a major airline yet. That's going to happen. In July, I have a student that is a current employee at Southwest. He works overnight, and then he's going to get into their apprenticeship program. So Southwest is interesting. You have to have 3 years of large jet experience before you can get hired. But they hire 12 apprentices every year, and they run them through a 2-year cycle, and they kind of shorten that period up so that they can hire them in. They hire in right at the base mechanic pay. So they already you have to have an A&P, but then they have their own kind of A&P. They have their own apprenticeship program where they're teaching them about the 737 and Southwest.
Their processes.
Everything like that. Jaron is the young man's name. And that just goes to, like, when we talk about, like, people always say, oh, the kids today are not motivated or this or that. It's not true. Absolutely not true in my experience. This young man goes to work at 8:30 at night, gets off at 7 a.m., drives to school, goes to school till 4. Not sure when he sleeps. But he's got the best attitude, friendly, polite, super smart. And in fairness, he works Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So most of the week he's just at school, not having to be at work all night. But that sort of work ethic to think about, like, hey, these 3 days I'm going to get, like, if I'm lucky, I'm going to get 2.5 hours of sleep. Right. But he understands the goal and, like, what's out there and the focus. So they typically only hire apprentices out of their current employees. So he's been there. He's an appearance tech. So he washes the outside airplanes at night. Up on the big booms, spraying the tail off and washing the landing gear and whatnot.
It's fun until it's 30 degrees outside and you're freezing your tushy off.
Well, the problem with, like, so they're washing an airplane that just landed, right? So if you haven't been around a real big jet after it just landed, like, you can't, you touch that strut, you're going to get 3rd-degree burns on your hand. Like, they're 400 or 500 degrees and it's a lot of metal, so it takes them a long time to cool down. So he actually says it's nicer when it's cold, because then
oh really
it could be, because it's like being in a spa. It's just automatic. Like, as soon as you start spraying, it's just steam everywhere and they're hot.
The skin's never
so, like,
been
in
better.
the summertime it's awful. And in the wintertime it's a little better, because at least you're not sweating so bad. But I thought the exact same thing. I was like, oh, that'll suck in the winter. He's like, no, it's worse. It's worse in the summer. And I was like, huh.
It's interesting what you brought up. I think one thing that we've always been good at, doesn't matter what generation you're from, is throwing shade at the generation behind you. But,
oh yeah, that's what's that fake quote from Socrates? Never heard it? Well, there's this quote that I've heard before. It's like, the youth of today have no respect for their elders, and it's like Socrates. It's just like, it's just old people bitching about young people for forever.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that's constant is change, and what we see is something different than what we've done, right, through the course of our career. So it's easy to look backwards and be like, oh, they're doing things in a way that's not right. Well, it's because it's not from our perspective and the way that we've seen things through our own lens, So I love that you bring that up, because it's a great point. Just because they do things different, they learn different, they communicate different, doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just different than what we've done. And in fact, it's probably going to end up being the thing that makes us more efficient as we go, in a lot of ways. So I love so much of what you guys are doing at Thrust, your own philosophies, that you developed over the course of your career. Embracing new technologies is huge, and you guys at Thrust have done that. But kudos to you guys for again, not just resting on your laurels and be like, hey, this is the way it's been done forever. We're just going to recreate this.
This episode is brought to you by Essential Turbines, powering missions, not just engines. As a Rolls-Royce authorized AMROC, we've supported M250 and Rolls-Royce 300 engines for over 30 years, delivering world-class overhauls, increased power, and rapid turnarounds for operators around the world. From single aircraft to national fleets, customers choose Essential because we know your name. We answer your call, and we solve the issue. We're big enough to deliver, small enough to care. Because your next mission can't wait. Learn more at essentialturbines.com.
Yeah, and you guys too, you're trying to address this this problem, and it is a problem. It's not just a problem from my seat. It's a problem from everyone in the industry all the way across. We have to figure out how to get ahead of it and what we need to do to recruit more students and just let people know that, a job in aviation is something that is lucrative, is great, is not looked down upon, right? Like being an aircraft mechanic is not like a bad thing. I think that the term mechanic for me personally, is part of it. Mm-hmm. What do they call an aircraft mechanic, and an A&P, what's he called in Canada?
Aircraft maintenance engineers.
Yeah. So an AME, in Australia, they're called they're called licensed aircraft maintenance engineers, right? Mm-hmm. In most of Asia, they just refer to them as engineers. All over Europe, it's just an engineer.
Right.
The Middle East, it's just call the engineer, right? And so I think that there's a stigma, mm-hmm. right? Like, I am not the guy that's walking up to clear faults and release your 777 for flight is not the same guy that's working on your Corolla. Not that there's anything wrong with the guy working on the Corolla, but it just gets that same, like you tell your mom, hey, I want to go be a mechanic. Like, is she going to be happy? When I talk to moms about their sons wanting to come through the program, we have those conversations.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that the industry really could push more with the FAA to, have some conversations about the changing in that terminology.
That
I have
part's
some
huge.
cool blog posts about it on thrustinstitute.com. I think I have a whole podcast about it too, but it's just something that is an idea of like if we're trying to attract more people, sometimes just a title change, is like, oh, this seems cool.
Yeah, I think that, you're seeing it also in manufacturing factories too, right? What we think of as you're building stuff, it's no longer turning wrenches necessarily. It's using robotics and, watching the computers and so forth. That changes the technology. What you were as a mechanic or a maintenance person is now more of an engineer, just because of the technical skills that you have to do now to make those things run every day.
And I think that guy that was maintaining the B-29 was still an engineer. I don't know if you've been around one of those. It's pretty complex, just in a different way.
Man, this has been an awesome conversation. I think we've touched on a lot of the things that are, I'd say we're considering headwinds for the industry today. A lot of it surrounds recruitment and retention, training of new AMPs, AMEs, and one thing I'm excited for is again the Vertical MRO conference. Seeing you guys there with your students potentially is going to be really cool. And I will say that the next thing I'm excited for is the inclusion of more helicopters at Thrust Institute. But man, what you guys are doing is absolutely amazing. I love the approach to technology and implementing that into what you guys are doing there and how you're developing this next generation of the workforce. Before we close out here, Ron, any final thoughts before I go back to John?
Yeah, I mean, my first time here at Thrust Institute was today. John gave me an incredible tour. I know you guys have opened up locations in Conroe and various other places, now Phoenix coming up. But I would say for anybody who has any interest into aviation and to really what's going on at the very beginning of somebody's entrance into the career from both the pilot side and maintenance side, come over here, get the tour, whether or not it's a nickel tour from John or a dime tour from somebody else, a little bit better than that. I would highly, highly recommend that from that aspect. The professionalism that's here, I mean, you really get to see what it is. And again, for all the operators, whether or not you're here in the DFW area or to some of these other locations, start reaching out to your local A&P schools. Start showing them like what the capabilities are and start talking about what the lifestyle about being a helicopter engineer is going to be like, how that can be different, how that extra $5 an hour difference may just be different in a lifestyle of what you really want as a career. These are the folks that can be your workforce for the next 20, 30, 40 years. But all it takes is a little bit of investment of your time.
You guys, I love being this format. It's fantastic. So like Ronnie said, we're excited. We'll be at the Vertical MRO conference. At least my students will, and I will make an appearance.
You're in the skills competition, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to have somebody else, but we're going to come try to compete in that skills competition. Like I said, we're all kind of going after that same thing. And, my advice to everyone out there is, you absolutely, if you're looking at becoming an A&P, check out our social medias. It's great. But, look at all the schools. Look at the schools that are close to you. we do have lots of, I have lots of students that have relocated. I have 5 students that moved here from Hawaii, right? Because they want to be aircraft mechanics. But there's a school near you or close to you, go look, talk to them, ask them all the questions, go in and talk to the students, talk to the instructors, come see us, talk to our students, talk to our instructors. And that's what I tell every person that comes in. Like, we're an open book. We don't have anything to hide. We want you to read about us on the internet as much as you can. I want you to talk to current students, and, we encourage all of that. And every school that you walk in should encourage that, right? Like, there shouldn't be, we just want you to, come join our program for whatever reason. Like, it's a great career path and a great opportunity. Just getting licensed and becoming an aircraft or an airframe and power plant mechanic is a great thing. Tons of different career opportunities. I know here we're focusing on kind of the rotorcraft maintenance side of things, but everything that flies needs an aircraft mechanic. So you think about all the advancements in space travel and drone technology and all of those things that are coming. All of that stuff is going to be growing and just creating more opportunities for everybody else. And while there's a shortage, what happens when there's a shortage to anything? Pay rates are going to rise. That's going to be part of it. Again, thanks guys. Thanks for having me. I love the format and the podcast and all of those things.
Yeah, it was an honor. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day. I know you have a lot going on with not only the facility, but the students and the aircraft and everything that you've got going. Again, you guys are doing a great job. So thank you very much. And until we see you again in person, hopefully, we'll catch you later.
Stand by for a message after a word from our sponsors.
Safe Structure Designs offers creative, customizable ergonomic safety solutions with over 20 years of experience. Their custom design process is free, ensuring safety and efficiency. Let them create your ideal solution. Visit www.safe-2.com. That's www.safe-2.com for more information.
Thank you to our sponsor, Robinson Helicopter Company, the choice for unrivaled safety and reliability, so you can accomplish any mission with confidence. For more than half a century, Robinson has been at the forefront of the helicopter industry. From the R-22 to the R-66 turbine, Robinson makes helicopters accessible so more people can accomplish more missions. Climb higher. For additional information, visit www.robinsonheli.com.
This episode is brought to you by Essential Turbines, powering missions, not just engines. As a Rolls-Royce authorized AMROC, we've supported M250 and Rolls-Royce 300 engines for over 30 years, delivering world-class overhauls, increased power, and rapid turnarounds for operators around the world. From single aircraft to national fleets, customers choose Essential because we know your name. We answer your call, and we solve the issue. We're big enough to deliver, small enough to care. Because your next mission can't wait. Learn more at essentialturbines.com.
Thank you for tuning into this insightful 2-part series of the Vertical MRO Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our conversation with John Dillenberg from the Thrust Institute of Maintenance, as we explored the critical challenges and exciting opportunities in attracting the next generation of talent to the rotorcraft aviation industry. Stay engaged and keep pushing the industry forward. Don't forget to follow us on our social channels and visit verticalmro.com for information on the Vertical MRO conferences. Until next time, stay safe, stay innovative, and keep elevating aircraft maintenance to new heights. Cheers.